was a small price to pay to rid the galaxy of terrorism.
The Mandalorian Season 3 trailer is finally here, and that means we've got some really cool Easter eggs and references too. So let's check them out.
You gotta be kidding me. Mandalore? The Empire turned that planet to glass.
Starting with Anzellans. I mean, come on, you've got to start with these little guys, right? After all, Babu Frick was easily one of the best things about the rise of Skywalker, so to see more people from his race fixing stuff, count me in. Not to mention, there's just something super satisfying about the way these little puppets move and interact. Seriously, even if the rest of the season is trash, which it absolutely won't be, it's gonna be worth watching just for a bunch of Babu Fricks going hey hey. Speaking of cute little guys though, this next one's perhaps even more important. Of course, I'm talking about Grogu, aka Baby Yoda. After all, he is the main attraction of the show. Oh, but wait a sec, didn't he kinda leave at the end of Season 2? How is he back? Well, yeah, a lot of people who have just been watching The Mandalorian have the same question, but for some reason, Lucasfilm squeezed in an entire Grogu side plot in the Book of Boba Fett. So you've gotta watch that one to actually see his return. Still, I've got some good news for you. Even though he quit his Jedi training, he's able to control his Force powers. Oh, and judging by the trailer, he's really strong with the Force. Then again, having Force powers isn't always enough, as is evident by this next thing in the trailer. Yep, I'm talking about Order 66, which is easily one of the most heart-wrenching moments in all of Star Wars. I mean, it's literally hundreds of Jedi getting massacred in their temple. This time around, however, it seems like we're gonna get a look from a different perspective. A much shorter perspective, if you will, because, yes, the trailer hints at the fact that we're finally gonna see who saved Grogu. Oh, and who knows, maybe Anakin Skywalker will show up at some point too. Though one person who's definitely showing up in Season 3 is, of course, Dr. Pershing. Now, he was only in the trailer for a second, and you could have easily missed him, but there are a few interesting things about his reveal. First, if you don't know, he's the scientist who'd been experimenting with Grogu's blood before Mando rescued the little guy. What's more, he shows up in the trailer right when Captain Teva warns us of danger in the galaxy, which, well, is very ominous. None of these details about his reveal are as important as the location he's flying in though, because yes, it is Coruscant. I mean, you're probably wondering what's so special about seeing the big city in The Mandalorian. After all, didn't we just see a bunch in Andor? Well, you see, whenever we've seen Coruscant in any of the live-action Star Wars stuff, it's always been in the prequel era. So this is one of the first times we're gonna see the city in all its glory after the fall of the Empire. Like, how exciting is that? Not to mention, this isn't even a capital anymore, since the New Republic didn't exactly settle on it, meaning it's also gonna be super fascinating to see all the political dynamics of the region. But, of course, if you're from the Anakin Skywalker school of thought, then you probably don't like politics. In which case, the trailer had the polar opposite thing to fighting Mandalorians. Now, this was obviously a given, cause, well, the show is literally called The Mandalorian. Though there is an interesting detail about this particular battle. You see, there are multiple of them fighting together, almost like a big crew. And even though their enemy is hidden, it's a pretty safe bet to assume that they're fighting against the Empire.
Very well. We split into two parties.
I go alone.
Fine. Phase 1.
After all, the trailer also shows the presence of TIE fighters, so there's gonna be some of that conflict within the show as well. But of course, the Empire isn't the only thing the Mandalorians are gonna be fighting in the show. In fact, with Mando's return to Mandalore, there's bound to be some internal conflict as well, and that means we get to see some more Mandalorian clans. Okay, so there's a lot to dig into her. For instance, this will be the first time we're gonna see Mandalore in live action. Not to mention, even though Din is going back to seek forgiveness for taking off his helmet, he's still the guy who won the Darksaber in combat. And this means that, technically, he's the planet's rightful ruler, destined to unite all the clans. Here's the tricky bit though. He pissed off a lot of people, including Bo-Katan, who will definitely want that throne back. Plus, we could see Mando going up against some of the characters from other clans too. For instance, we see Paz Vizsla, who's the only surviving member of Clan Vizsla, which in and of itself is pretty crucial to the lore of Mandalore. Why is this clan so important though? Well, you see, one of the OG members, Tar Vizsla, was the first Mandalorian Jedi, and also held the Darksaber, so they sorta think it belongs to them. And that's why we could see a rivalry between Jaren and Pan Vizsla in Season 3. Other than that, we also briefly see a member of Clan Elder in the trailer. Now, this clan is also incredibly important, as it's been already featured in other Star Wars stories like Rebels, though I'm not sure if Din is gonna fight against them or actually team up with them. Oh, and on a similar note, Mando's encounter with these next guys is also gonna be super fascinating to see, since no one knows whose side they're on either. Of course, I'm talking about the battle droids. Yep, or should I say, Roger Roger. In the trailer, these guys seem to just be chilling at a droid cantina, though I'm not sure what their motives are. Also, if you didn't already know, these guys were a major part of the prequel trilogy, and obviously, the Clone Wars animated show. I mean, who can forget their quirky back and forth, especially with General Grievous commanding them? But of course, the Separatists are long gone, so they're probably just surviving members of their batches. Interestingly, we can also see an R2-D2-like droid in the cantina scene, though the blue markings aren't like our guy, so it's probably just a look-alike. Speaking of droids, however, did anyone spot the big white guy with red stripes? No? Well then, scan through the trailer again, because yes, that's R5-D4. Okay, perhaps he's not the most exciting droid in Star Wars, but did you know that this is the astromech that failed when Luke and Uncle Owen were about to buy him from the Jawas? No, seriously, we all know that they ended up buying R2-D2 instead of him. Yeah, that one panned out quite well, didn't it? But of course, here, R5-D4 hangs out with Pelimoto in her Tatooine shop. Then again, we see him and Mando Starfighter as well during the trailer, so perhaps we're gonna see him in action as well. One guy who won't be involved in the action, however, is Salacious B. Crumb. Now, he's a weird-looking creature who's appeared in the franchise before as well. For instance, if you roll your memory back to the Return of the Jedi, he's one of the quirky guys in Jabba's palace, though this time around, he's up in a tree and only appears in the trailer for like a millisecond. Not to mention, we don't know if it's actually Crumb or just some other Kowakian instead. Still, it's reassuring to know that they're not getting rid of dumb-looking creatures in Season 3. Alright, these were some of the Easter eggs and little details in the new Mandalorian trailer. See you in the next one.